Women of Reddit, what do you think would be the worst thing about being a man? The constant pressure in society that the man has to pay for meals, drinks, etc. I feel like it all would add up really quickly. Feeling uncomfortable or shamed for showing your emotions. It's a sad truth, but since the dawn of time, men have been encouraged to live up to the expectations of having to be tough or being a rock for the family. As a woman, I think we feel more comfortable crying and expressing our sadness. Men get sad too, and it's about time they feel free to express it as easily as women do. Having to be the person physically in charge in a threatening situation. Like always being with a man when walking home from a party in a sketchy area at night. Yes, there is safety in numbers, but the dude is expected to be protective regardless of level of awareness, self-defensive, or drunkenness. That's a lot of pressure. Oh, you got stuck taking care of the kids today, huh? Giving mom a day off. Finally? Dads know what I'm talking about. I was a stay-at-home dad until my daughter went to kindergarten. This hit me deep in the soul. I've been accused of being a child predator while reading a book on a park bench while my daughter plays. Have had the cops called on me when my daughter and I were just walking down the street 2 blocks from my own home. And have been generally looked down on even by family members while I was a stay-at-home parent. The giving mom a day off line is just emotionally crushing sometimes when it's said. Edit. Thank you for the platinum. Thank you all very much for the kind words and the discussions had about this. Man, my ex-girlfriend chatting to some scary guy on a train who was acting out and then just turning to me with a "Are you going to let him speak to me like that?" look on her face when she angered him off enough. Dude would have fricked me up if I wasn't so good at being diplomatic. I can't believe this is so far down. Being what people assume, the more aggressive ex would keep me up at night. But I'm a lover, not a fighter. I swear, my ancestors survived by saying something confusing and then running like hell while the angry person tried to figure out WTF they said. None of us enjoy fighting lol. Not being able to take care of children without getting dirty looks. This is true. I'm a dad of 3 and I work from home, so I pick up the kids after school ECT. It is hard for my kids to get their friends' parents to let them come over and play if my wife isn't home too. Pretty disappointing for me to see my kids wonder what is going on. They don't get it. If it was just my wife home with the kids they wouldn't bat an eye. There was one social experiment, no a real one, not douchebag YouTubers, where a random woman stood at a playground and just took pictures all day. No one batted an eye. When a man stepped in and started snapping pics, he was approached within minutes by parents, asking if he was a pervert and if he could please leave. I'll have to dig up the link when I'm not at work. I've always been good with kids, but when I mentioned to my guidance counselor in high school that I might be interested in going into some kind of childcare field, her response was, "Aren't you worried what people might think?" I wish I had been secure enough to not care, but that really stuck with me to the extent that I stopped even considering it. Jesus H. Christ, this is spot on. It's gotten to be a regular thing where someone wants to check to make sure I'm being escorted by my kids when I take them to a playground, but don't hover over them. Which kids are yours? Itch. I don't need to answer your questions. If you're not satisfied I have kids here, go call the cops and report someone at a park minding his own dang business. Some crazy old biddy called the cops on my husband when he took our kids to the park. It doesn't help that our kids are brown and my husband is super white. They look just like him once you get past the skin color. I had to drive to the park for the cops to not arrest my husband and take the kids. That woman was lying out her about him. I would not be allowed a moment of weakness. Bad day. You can't cry unless your mother just died. Hurt yourself. Suck it up and go to the hospital. Feeling self-conscious about your body? Nobody cares. Feeling ill? Someone has a man cold. Probably the stigma. I've seen a single father get shouted at for being with his kid when at a park for trying to kidnap children. The dude wanted to make his son happy, not arrest him FFS. I was fishing at a park today and some 8-year-old kid who was alone came up to me and showed me that he broke his line off in the water. He didn't have any extra tackle, so I gave him a new jig and hook, tied it on for him and everything. It was the cheapest reel and line I've ever seen, so his folks must have just picked it up at Walmart and said, "Here, go fish." He wanted to fish with me after that. I didn't want to tell him to get lost because he was looking up to me at that point, so I said, "Sure, if you want to." The entire time I was having a mini panic attack waiting for the kid's parents to show up and kick my behind or something. The kid was super sweet and kept trying to impress me by telling me all the huge fish he caught. Eventually he went away and his folks showed up, and as I was leaving he pretended not to know me and quickly gave me a stealthy wave. I shouldn't be afraid to help a kid out like that. I was helping a young girl find Fortnite in the game section of a Target recently. I couldn't find it, so I mentioned how she could find it on the eShop and asked her if she knew how to get onto it. Her mom came right up and grabbed her daughter by the shoulders with the most frightened look in her eyes. She cut the conversation short and told her daughter they needed to leave. After I went home, it bothered me all day. I kept asking myself, do I really look that creepy? Should I not have helped at all? Is it wrong of me to talk to children? I feel you, man. My wife was walking around Target one day, that's her favorite place, and I was watching our little boy. He was on the aisle with cars and boy things. I stood next to him and would follow him as he moved down the aisle. Multiple people gawked at me, slowed down, gave me dirty looks. I have an olive complexion and dark hair, Italian heritage, and my wife is pale and Irish with blonde hair. Our son has a mix of both, and when you look at our eyes, shape or face, it's easy to see he's my son. But at a glance he definitely doesn't look like he's mine. Although he's 3 shades lighter than me and 5 darker than his mother. It's awful to feel like a criminal because I'm with my son. I've ripped into more than one woman trying to stick her nose where it doesn't belong. I have a baby girl on the way and I know it's going to be worse. It's kind of annoying walking my dog around town and having to straight up ignore every kid. Don't talk to them, don't look at them. Halloween is the only day out of the year that I get to talk to the kids in my neighborhood. Frick that. I walk around with my kid and other kids say hi to us. I get a lot of stares if I wave hi to the kid. Frick those people. Being expected to be more effective at physical labor, being expected to do more dangerous work, receiving less empathy when struggling with emotional issues. My wife literally came home one night and told me she was leaving for another man, took my money, and filed for divorce. She also took and kept the dog. I was allowed 1 day off from work to deal with it, our court date. If I even slightly mentioned it, people would go silent. And it's 6 months later and everyone expects me to be completely over it. It's torture. Being arrested for defending myself against an abusive partner. When I was in high school, my dad got remarried to a woman with a ton of emotional baggage. She was verbally abusive and would start fights with anyone who would take the bait. They got in an argument one night and she started to shove him. He put his hands in his jacket pocket so that there could be no confusion of him hitting her. When he refused to engage, she told him she would end his kids in their sleep. He called the cops. They came, listened to the story, and my dad went to jail. She was alone in the house with all of my siblings. I was out of town that night. My dad is a big teddy bear. I've never seen him in trouble with the law until that night. I got him out of jail the next day and then worked with him to send my younger siblings to live with my mom in Utah, and I got an apartment with my next youngest brother. He had a criminal record for having his and his children's lives threatened. That was really messed up. I cannot fathom how a guy sits down to poop and their junk is what, just chilling inside the toilet? Do you lift them and rest them on the toilet seat? I have no idea how dudes do it. Do you get backsplash on your balls? I ask these questions to my boyfriend. I'm convinced he thinks I'm a lunatic, but I just think balls would be incredibly inconvenient. Honestly, probably people just assuming that you'll do all of the gross stuff that no one else wants to do. Fixing up the car, unclogging the toilet, cleaning out the spider webs in the attic, scrubbing the mildew out of the bathtub. Guys are just expected to do it all without complaint because that's the manly thing to do. As a woman, I find it pretty unfair. Alongside that are hiding a Rona, people assuming that you can't have mental illnesses / disorders, not being allowed to cry / show emotions / be insecure about your body. All of it is really unfair. I'm sorry guys. Thank you so much for watching, and soobscrooble if you want.